I'm kind of feeling major hoogie right now, so I'm like all corduroy velveted out. I invite you to join me with something warm, something cozy. And on this very dark, very gloomy night, I want to show you my treasure box. I haven't filmed a single haul in probably over 6 months. It's well overdue. I do have some really delicious perfume finds that I added to my collection that I can't wait to share with you, so I can finally, get them all out of the boxes, put the boxes away, throw them away, and completely rearrange my olfactory library. Alright, let's waste no time on it, and I will start with this massive box. This is like why I was so waiting for this to happen. This is my very first bottle by Frapin, and they are the makers of cognac, and therefore, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think they started with hard liquors, and they are perfume creations. Oh my god, how am I going to do this? Their perfume creations are, at least initially, were all devoted to the very fine and boozy art of distilling alcohol. One thing that I find kind of pigeonholes Frapin a little bit is, first of all, that kind of a setting, which makes sense to depart from your heritage, but also the way that they package, that means kind of like reads very masculine. However, I find it's underappreciated in the kind of non-typical masculine market of people who like perfumes. If you think otherwise, please let me know. I'll be happy to hear an opinion that's different. I myself kind of avoided this whole brand because of how kind of in your nose masculine the packaging is, though it's really beautiful. You're right, the decorative gold accents. And the one that I got was kind of semi-blind purchase. I do know that I'm a big fan of bourbon, of whiskey, of cognac, especially Armenian, especially old school Armenian that now it's impossible to find. So their 1270 was kind of a no-brainer purchase for me, but I opted for the version that's called Extreme. I did so, let's just spray it right here. I did so partially because some of the other boozy, ambery, kind of cognac-like scents that I have in my collection tend to be not the longest lasting. And when it comes to sort of like Orange Bitters by Jo Malone is one example. So when it comes to kind of flavors of old-fashioned Manhattan, those kind of boozy Prohibition-era cocktails, I already have a few options. And I wanted something that would be like the most cognac-iest fragrance that I could find in the market. Well, 1270 is much less about cognac as it is about everything that surrounds kind of these cigar lounges where you can find a very fine cognac. To me, it's, compared to what I expected, it's somewhat fresher, more refined, it's less boozy and almost more, it's like if you can imagine that, it's a fresh cognac gourmand. It's quite accessible for the daytime, which just blew my mind. And I find that this one, the 1270 Extreme, it does last a long time. That's no question about that. I like it way more than Angel Share by Kilian. What else comes to mind? Oh my god, I'm blanking. Well, Baronda is more about wine. Everything else I'm thinking. Well, Ambar del Sur by Carner Barcelona, I think is a little bit more cognac-like and more woody, but that one doesn't last very long. So this kind of stands on its own, which is great because I was kind of afraid of just like creating yet another dupe in my collection of something that I already have. But it's surprising to me that I don't find it to be nearly as brutal or masculine as I was anticipating. And it's really not as much about cognac as it is about kind of the overall feel of those like dark, leathery, wood-covered lounges. And I gotta say, quite a few ladies asked me about this perfume and said that this is the most delightful and yet elegant perfume that they would wear. Go figure. 1270 might be an unexpected, daytime appropriate, boozy gourmand that might be just perfect for your library, just like it is for mine. Definitely keep happy to have it. Another long time want, and I bought a tester so it doesn't have the most beautiful part of this design, which is the lid. This is a haute couture, haute perfumerie by Salvador Dali. I made, I think by now, 3 reviews of the brand and of the fragrances they have. And I do have a detailed review of the whole line if you're interested. This is the first boutique line that they issued. They've since had a few, and I think I'll show you at least 1 or 2 here just to remind me of, again, very recent purchases for me, so it's not going to be much of a repetition. The one that I liked from their first line the most was Calice. And Calice to me is a very tasteful, semi-sweet and sort of chocolatey rose patchouli scent. The only problem, I don't know if you saw it or not, is that my spray is broken. It just spits fragrance instead of spraying it. So I don't know if all bottles are like that or just mine. They have absolutely gorgeous, almost like sculpturesque type of lids, that line. And that whole line was chaperoned by Alberto Morelius. I don't know if he had any other perfumers that were helping him to organize it, and I think that was a really powerful launch for Salvador Dali, kind of like rebranding almost that they did in the perfume world. And for those of you who hadn't had the chance to Google, Alberto Morelius is like one of the grandfathers now living in the perfumer world. It's easier to name the brands that he hasn't worked with than, to name all that he did work with. He is the father of so many iconic best-selling perfumes in their category. He worked extensively with, oh goodness, Chapar, Kilian, Bulgari, like, gosh, so many, Gucci, with so many very, very high luxury, hard luxury brands. So usually when he chaperones or designs, shall we say that, a whole line for a brand, like he did for Gucci or for Salvador Dali, I kind of expect richness, like old money, luxury, but not necessarily very restrained. It's almost like it's old money revealing that they have money. So the whole line, again, I reviewed it in a different video. If I don't forget, I'll leave a link below. You can just Google it. The whole line has a lot in common, and to me the in common part is that kind of somewhat oily, heavy, patchouli based line. In here, where we combine oily green, almost chocolatey, dark patchouli with rose, that's where it just becomes delightfully dark. It's like if you leave roses to die in the dark dungeon with a little bit of kind of moss that grows on the stones. Beautiful. I've been walking around it for a long time, and as some of you know, my most the patchouli, the chocolate patchouli of all time for me is Cartier 7th Hour. that is just unprecedented. I haven't found anything that beat it ever. And I tried Mugler, I tried a few other chocolatey patchouli scents. Nothing comes even close to the 7th Hour, but it's not for everyone, that's for sure. I find that Calice is probably a much more kind of user-friendly version of that. You add rose, you reduce a little bit of the patchouli, though it's pretty prominent. It's still quite kind of luxurious, heavy, and velvety. At the same time, I find that it's much more wearable, sweeter, and more, I would say, velvety. That Voleur de Roses, the Hunter After the Roses, that's how you translate the name, by L'Artisan Parfumeur. That's like another iconoclast type of a perfume that I think either was discontinued or repackaged, I don't remember. So these type of like green, dark, mossy, wet rose, it's very gothic, it's very classical kind of combination. It's one of those staples of what you combine with rose, and I find that Calice by Salvador Dali is an immediate classic. My main concern about these perfumes is the packaging. As I said, I'm not digging the label and how it's glued. My spray is already half broken. I didn't get a chance to look at the lid. It's supposed to be really beautiful. Maybe that saves it. But otherwise, I find that later perfumes by Salvador Dali in their premium line are, I would say, better made, but still I think they haven't found their groove yet in terms of packaging, in my opinion. But very happy to have the Calice. I will just probably decant it and just throw in my purse, because like dark rose patchouli is my everything for winter. It's just, if you haven't tried something like that, please do. In the colder, wetter months, especially when it's disgusting, slushy weather, deep, dark rose patchouli, so good. Another beauty that I actually have never seen full package of is Profumum Roma. Finally got myself a full-size bottle. I'm going to start unpackaging and tell you my story. I've been circling around Profumum Roma for now probably 3 years. They have prohibitively high prices, similar to MDCI, but these as a primo Italian niche. Their creations are so dense, so potent, so refined, that I finally caved in. When I was visiting Italy, I had an opportunity to actually buy a full-size bottle, and I just couldn't commit to anything, so I ended up buying 3 travels, but I still was like just secretly craving a full-size bottle. So the one that I ended up getting, I actually have in the travel size, so I'm just going to show you how it's packaged, but until I'm done with the travel size, I don't want to unseal it. Surprisingly to me, they come in a splash bottle, so you can just kind of cut it. And again, if anybody wants to, I'm super happy to split the bottle. I know how expensive it is, and I know that it took me years before I actually splurged on a full-size bottle. So it's essentially a splash. Again, I'm not going to open it. I don't want the precious drops to evaporate. But what you get with it is a travel, it's not a spray, it's a roll, a travel roll, and I already have one. And you get sort of a pipette, which allows you to pull the fragrance out of the bottle into the travel, and you get a actual spray that you can just get in. So I will definitely get that going, either if any of you request a few samples, or when I myself am done with the travel size. That said, let's talk about the perfume. My head was splitting. I was like, which one do I want? Interestingly, in the States, the rumor has it that Profumum Roma again, it's like nearly $300 a bottle. That in the States, the best-selling perfumes by Profumum Roma are going to be Cerezo, Dolce and Fundo. So all of the gourmands, all of these sweet, delicious, they do gourmands like nothing else. And in a way, a lot of their fragrances have this kind of delightful, deep sweetness to them that's not sugary, that's not syrupy. One of the best sellers, as I was told by the boutique owner in Italy, is actually Acqua di Sale. Hope I'm saying it correctly. Which is also oily, deep, kind of a seaweedy, salty perfume. And it does work. It does open up beautifully in Italy. It just makes so much sense to me. But I would consider it to be quite niche and unusual in the United States. But the one that I finally cashed my coins on is Arso. You know why? Because this is the most imaginative, creative, inspiring, soothing, delightful perfume that is dedicated in my mind to a Christmas tree. I feel sweet resins, I feel pine, I feel these like kind of like sweet hard candy, all kinds of desserts hidden there somewhere. It's not too smoky, as a lot of pine-centric fragrances tend to be either too fougere or too kind of dry, or they combine them with salt, or they so that, or with smoke. This is just a sweet resinous Christmas tree. It's like the best one I found to date, and I've tried many. Decent pine rose, I would say, is Amouage Epic for women. Pino Sylvestre, I think it's called. Too synthetic. I've tried. Okay, I've tried. I looked. I sampled. This is it. The smell of Christmas. This is absolutely it. It's slightly nutty. I do intend to wear it extensively during the cold weather, and when I want to feel that little childish wonder in me, when you just want to sit under the Christmas tree and you can't wait till tomorrow when you can unwrap your present. Oh, this is so good. And another purchase that I was craving after for a long time. And as soon as I heard that it's discontinued, I don't know if it's true or not, somebody please confirm, I had to get the Amouage Beach Hut. It was not their bestseller for many years, and yet it's one of the best examples of that mineral nouveau aquatics, when it's salty, when it is juicy, when it is seaweedy, when it has this kind of reclaimed wood and seaweed, almost like salty oiliness to it. Beach Hut is absolutely one of the best, the strongest, and the longest lasting examples of that kind of a perfume. And again, some of you might come across the Tom Ford Costa Azur, which I would say is it's really good. It's really good. I love it. I love the bottle of it, actually a little bit more than Amouage, but the scent itself, in my view, is a little simpler. It's a little watered down compared to the Beach Hut by Amouage. Again, rumor has it, it's discontinued. So this is my gift to myself. Yet another one. It's marketed toward women. There's nothing feminine about this fragrance. I wouldn't worry about it if you're a guy. There's nothing super girly about the packaging itself, minus maybe just one crystal that is there somewhere. The Amouage house is supported by one of the royal families, is the Saudis. So they do, at least in the past, they invested heavily into the quality over quantity. And Beach Hut is one of their earlier creations. This is why I say if you are still looking for something and you like the idea of salty, seaweedy, woody aquatics, which is like the rage of all the aquatics now, I think it's like finally we got like a renaissance of aquatics in 21st century after the watermelony aquatics of 90s, like think David of Cold Water, Light Blue by Dolce & Gabbana, and many others. This is it. I would heavily recommend for you to check out older Amouage creations. I know that they changed the packaging. I know they changed they produce some in Oman, some in am I saying it right? I think it's like in Oman, yeah. Some in other places. It's very confusing where you can get the best of the best of the best amouages. Nevertheless, I would say the one that I got, does it say where it's made? UK. No, it says made in Oman. Gosh, it's such a small font. Anyway, yeah, made in Oman. I love it. And I kind of like digging the packaging. The blue metallic, again, the reclaimed wood with a little bit of kind of a washed off paint. That's cool. I wanted it for a long time. I used up, I think, 2 decants. So I'm ready. I'm ready to be a proud owner of Beach Hut now. To support a similar theme, it was a gift from a boutique where I was doing a presentation this summer, and it was kind of like a gratis bottle that they gave me, a Laboratorio Olfativo Balliflora. That's what I chose as my gratis because at the time it was very hot and very dry where we were flown to, and I was just craving something both elevated and romantic and yet somewhat like a wake-up call. And I didn't want to go to the usual kind of lemony bergamots and colognes. So Balliflora, which I think is their either like limited edition or some special line, to me is kind of salty bergamoty opening with almost like a minty feeling to it, and then this romantic, almost fruity frangipani in the background. It's yet a delightful and the freshest frangipani centric fragrance that I have in my collection. I adore it. It's just like it's right there on the edge between being refreshing cologne and being a romantic floral, and this combination of this kind of cooling, refreshing bergamot minty opening with almost salty, with a soft, almost fruity, romantic frangipani. Oh, such a nice combo. Love it, love it, love it. I think it was Jean-Claude Elena who made it. Good work, good job, because he really needs my approval, right? Talking of delightful, dreamy florals, I am closing all of my issues, all of my olfactory traumas and wounds by getting these bottles. I swear to God, this is like some big karma karma shopping trip. I finally found Atelier Bloem Extraordinary Tulip. I dare say Atelier Bloem makes one of the most thinly weaved, most beautiful and delicate and natural sounding florals, like any flowers you can think of. They're also really good in making powdery fragrances as well. So Extraordinary Tulip is my the most favorite one from everything that I've tried from them. And I tried Sweet William, Half Moon, New Amsterdam. Goodness, I tried quite a few by them. I used up two 8 ml decants of Extraordinary Tulip, and I was grieving the fact that this is it, and yet I got it. What's so good about this? If you've tried La Tulip by Redo, I wouldn't call that an iconic and believable tulip. This is. It's so tulipy. Is it helping? I don't know. We're gonna pretend it is. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a really green, somewhat watery, with a lot of stem smell to it. And it's one of the best, the most believable tulip scents that I've tried. It's when you want an unusual floral, I go for lily, mimosa, tulip, or one of those greener ones, right? Like less advertised ones. Extraordinary Tulip, Atelier Bloem. So happy I finally got it in my hands. This was a bit of a blind purchase because I really wanted to try something new by L'Artisan Parfumeur. I haven't really kept up with them in a while, and it seems like they keep playing with packaging, they keep playing with pricing for their perfumes, so it seems. So I was kind of like, I think I'm gonna just wait and see. But finally, on Mercari, secondhand, I just snatched it blindly because, again, like I said, like I wanted to try something. So that something that came my way was Mont de Narcisse. Yes. Another floral, unusual floral that I always go to if I want to like something special. So, as I said, lily, my top favorite, mimosa, tulip, narcisse. This is so bizarre, let me tell you. Mont de Narcisse, L'Artisan Parfumeur, created by Anne Filippo. Okay, I'll leave the names and the links where you can try them below. This was quite bizarre, I would say. I have one of the best Narciso scents, which is, what is it? I think it's called Daffodil. So bizarre, because to me, this Narcissus is not about daffodils at all. Though it's in the name, it's in the pyramid, to me it is leathery. It's like dried, it's gourmand at the beginning, and then it becomes bitter and herbal and leathery. It's not that common for scents to open up with gourmand notes, with something sweet and charming, and actually go to lose that and go to a different end, to a different profile later. It's usually the other way around. Things can start citrusy, fresh, bitter, floral, whatever you want, and eventually, as heavier and heavier molecules slowly evaporate from the skin, you will get this kind of after sweeter, ambery, leathery aftertaste. This is in reverse. To me, at the beginning, it smells like dried bananas, which I love. It used to be my guilty pleasure. That's why I don't buy them anymore, because otherwise I'll eat the whole pack with tea. To me, it smells of dried bananas. And then, with time, it becomes drier and drier, and bitter and more bitter. And at some point, it becomes so austere and so melancholic that I almost like it's just like you want to cry. It's like a movie about two young lovebirds who eventually just grow old and tend to resent each other. That's something that is just missing at the ending of it, that I kind of like, it makes me sad, because the beginning is so charming and so, it's just, bananas are not easy to come by in the perfumery. I know that Amouage Mimosa supposedly opens with a banana, but this is just a delightful, sweet, dry bananas, and then it just gets to be so bitter, so herbal, that it's just sad. So I'm very split on this. I tend to overspray it a bit at the beginning because I'm so delighted by the banana smell. But later I do regret it, and I usually like layer something sweet on top of it just so I can bear through the dry down. Nevertheless, Mont de Narcissus, if you're looking for a authentic daffodil scent, I would go to Penhaligon's Astara, which is also discontinued. It's just like Amouage Beach Hut, in which I also do have. If you really, if you ask nicely, I might sell a decant or two, but you know, I'm preserving that bottle for my own use as well. Anyway, moving on. I am probably the last person in the world who's gonna show you Narciso Rodriguez Musque Noir. This is essentially almost like a reboot for Narciso Rodriguez line. They have been coming out with all kinds of flankers, but I feel Musque Noir, where they really struck gold again ever since their first and very famous pink bottle of Narciso Rodriguez for Her. Then they had very good and very solid cube line. It was white cube, black cube, red cube. And then all kinds of flankers and limited editions. But we kept waiting for something special, for Narciso Rodriguez to kind of reinvent itself. I think that's where it really happened. Musque Noir for Her, Eau de Parfum. Now there is Musque Noir Rose, there is Musque Noir Forever, and probably something else, and maybe Eau de Toilette. I went to the roots of their rebranding, and I gotta tell you, this is a very Gen Z friendly vintage look, because a lot of people who didn't grow up on heavier fragrances, who are just entering that space, when they smell Narciso Rodriguez for Her, you know, the opaque, the original one, the opaque pink bottle, you kind of get a little bit of this, that's substantial. It's not loud, but it's heavy. And I am blown away how they managed to preserve that kind of leaning, that musky, sensual softness, kind of substantial in its gravitas, but still soft. It's like a river of gold, not super shiny, just dark, just creeping through, just covering the surface like this like musky, sweet lava. How they managed to preserve this feel and yet make this so elevated. And it's like plum wine that is a little bit carbonated, and yet it still has that, you know, soothing longing that's so characteristic, like sexy seductiveness that's so characteristic for Narciso Rodriguez's creations in perfumery. I am in love. I've been wearing it non-stop, where appropriate, where it's not. I absolutely get the hype. My stamp of approval. Narciso Rodriguez has successfully reinvented themselves. I highly recommend you try it. I think it's great. By the way, I tried the Rose. I think it makes it a little bit more generic. I tried Forever. Nice. I still think Musque Noir Eau de Parfum is where it's at. Okay, we're not gonna fit it all in one video. So if you enjoy watching what kind of new precious bottles I've added to my collection, leave a comment below. Request another one. If enough people leave a comment, I'll do it. I just need your permission, really. I really want to do it. But, you know, I want you to want me to do it too. I'm that codependent. Anyway, the last one I'm going to show you here, because I don't want to exhaust us, is another Laboratorio Olfativo. This is their white line. They have black line, they have white line, and they have special editions such as I think Baliflora, and there's like a trio or quattro line from which I have Bergamotto and Mandarina. So the white line is kind of their flirty, fruity florals. Nothing to write home about. However, when I actually went to their boutique in Turin and sampled everything, I was kind of more impressed with the limited editions by Jean-Claude Ellena and the white line. So go figure. To me, white line is where it's at. The one that I got here is called Nun. I did already buy a travel of Nun. That's what I brought from my touring trip, because I couldn't really bring that many full-size bottles, and I opted for a travel. And yet, when I found a 30 ml, I jumped on it immediately. I'm nearly at the end of that travel, and I thought, that's just like a easy to wear, well-rounded kind of pear, fruity floral. It's pear and white flowers, like jasmine, white lotus. It's kind of, it's not too watery in a way, but it's not also not too floral. It's just like a very well-rounded. It's like fluffy souffle type of a perfume. It's super charming, and without noticing, little by little, I nearly used up my whole travel. And I was like, oh, you know what? I always will have a day when I just don't wear anything special, nothing seductful, nothing austere, nothing this, nothing that, and I will just want to feel, just this kind of, and that's it. That's Laboratorio Olfattivo Nun for me. So super happy to have 30 ml in addition to my nearly finished travel. For comparison, I find that this is more well-rounded and less difficult to wear than Angeli's Pear by Nicolai Perfumes, which I also have. I thought that would be an ideal summer pear fragrance for those of you who prefer that fruit to others. I am a big fan. I think it smells more special and more interesting than effervescent apricot and peach that is kind of osmanthus in like nearly all fruity florals. So pear I find to be like a really cool twist on a fruity fragrance. But Angeli's Pear by Nicolai is a little bit more fizzy. It's a little bit more sour sweet. This is just like a fluffy milky pear souffle. It's just so delightful. It's amazing. Anyway, that's that with the first act of gifts to oneself. Let me know if any of that you've tried. Do you have any recommendations for future videos? Again, I just need permission, really. That's all I'm asking for. I'll leave the links and the perfume names down below in the description. If you want to support my channel and like buy me coffee, the donation link is also down below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.